Hello and welcome to another episode of What If It's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that's cool in the world today. I am the Lord of the Dance, that is Daniel Paul Crow, and with me, the Lord of Darkness, that is Tim. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, that was actually somewhat decent. I'm surprised with that intro.
My intros are always awesome. What are you on about?
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. So, Tim, you picked an interesting movie for us to talk about today. Give us a little bit of a breakdown. What did we watch, and what's it about?
We watched Overlord this week. So Overlord has recently come up on Netflix. I actually already own the film on Blu-ray, but it's a really fun World War II film. So it's sort of done in the style of Men on a Mission, and yeah, you know, like knowing very little about it going in is probably going to ensure maximum sort of shock whenever people do actually check out this film.
Like I remember just seeing trailers on Instagram, and they were just saying, "Oh, this new horror movie." I'm like, okay, and I just kept on backburner. And then when you told me to watch it this week, I was just like, okay, yeah, why not?
So when you saw the trailers, were you sort of like, yeah, hard pass, I'm not watching that?
No, I think whenever I see anything that's from it's Bad Robot, right? The production company.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm always intrigued because although some of their movies are a bit questionable at times, J.J. Abrams always brings something different to the table. So I'm like, okay, we'll see how we go. But the trailer that I do remember seeing, it only just saw the war stuff. It didn't really say, and it was like a hint of like there's horror, but you didn't even know. So in my mind, I thought it was going to be a zombie movie. So I'm just like, why the hell are we doing another scary zombie movie? All right. So that was my original thought of how it was going to be.
I remember seeing some posters and what have you for this, but I didn't actually get to check it out in the cinema. But then when I started reading up on it, and I actually found out that people were speculating that this was going to be an entry in the Cloverfield universe.
Yeah, read about that too.
Yeah, so people were jumping on board with that theory until Abrams dispelled that. He just said, yeah, no, it's not actually part of Cloverfield, but what he did say about it was that Overlord is batshit crazy. Would you say that is a fair description of this movie?
No.
You don't think so? Okay, all right.
No.
All right.
Like, hang on, wait. When you describe a movie being batshit crazy, like I would expect it to be over the top, just like blood and guts all over the place. It didn't really have that. That's what I would describe a movie like that. I mean, it had elements of that, but it wasn't a complete movie that had that.
So you're thinking more along the lines of like Story of Ricky.
No, I mean I mean, if you want to go with blood and guts, yeah, I'd probably say it's probably on the. I don't know if you ever watched this movie. It's called From Beyond, I believe it's called. It's got Jeffrey Combs in it. And it's about a doctor who has this machine that it travels stuff and creatures from another dimension, and it just everything about that movie. It was like blood and gore every probably 6 or 7 minutes, and it was a great movie. But it was just like that was completely crazy, like everything about that.
That sounds like it's probably a bit higher up on the scale of batshit crazy, but
yeah.
With this one, look, I think that this one was actually somewhat batshit crazy, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
The director of this, Julius Avery, is actually an Aussie director.
Really?
Yeah.
Hang on, why is it there's a trend of Aussie directors always doing horror films first? Like, have you noticed that? Like, all these, like, up-and-comers are all doing horror first, and they'll go and do something different.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the best examples would be James Wan and Lee Wan-el.
Yep.
And, especially recently, Lee Wan-el's done, the fantastic movies Upgrade and The Invisible Man earlier this year.
Love them.
I don't know, like maybe it's just something that they sort of get into, but, like when you look at some of these directors, they possibly grew up in that era, like with regards to VHS, and, like they really like these sorts of movies. I mean, Julius Avery, in the article that I read, he was saying that, VHS movies like The Thing, Aliens, those are, like really big really big sort of influences on his career. And, you know, what he wanted to do was to sort of like, you know, pay homage to some of those sorts of things in this movie. And look, you know, I think it's a fantastic picture. I mean, I'm going to get that out of the way right now.
I didn't say it was bad. I just saying
I didn't say you were saying it was bad.
No, because when you say batshit crazy, I think my level of batshit crazy is different to your level of batshit crazy. Maybe.
You watch a lot of shit though, so there is that.
That is true. I really do. I'm not gonna lie on this cast. Yeah, I really do. I mean, I
Killer Workout was one that you mentioned. I was like,
don't knock a movie you still haven't watched.
I've never heard of it, but
I mean, there's a lot of cheesy 80s horror movies out there that are just guilty pleasures. That's one of them.
This sounds like some bargain bin find that you
pretty much is.
Come across.
But there's another one. There's another one that I recently saw called Chopping Mall.
Yes.
Like what?
I can imagine you walking past this bin, and then just, you know, like you're imagining a voice emanating from the bin, going, "Buy me, Dan." My cousin is exactly the same.
Buy me, take me home.
Yeah, he walked past that shoot 'em up movie. He walked past that shoot 'em up movie at Video Easy once, and he just goes, "Yeah, it just said to me, bro, like it just said, buy me, bro."
No, you know one of the first comes to mind when you say that, Death Races, simply because I saw Raven from the WWE or ECW's people may remember him from, was on it. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta buy this. And jeez, I regret that every day.
You need to be a bit more discerning with some of the things that you pick. But with this one, do you own this one?
Which, Overlord?
Yeah, Overlord.
No, it's just because I've got the Netflix subscription, so that's why I watched it.
Fair enough. With regards to actors, did you recognize anyone in this?
On the first viewing, no. I thought I recognized one, and I can't remember who I thought it was. I thought he was that guy that played Jimmy Olsen on Smallville, and it turns out I was wrong, because, like, first and foremost, two completely different actors. But I did recognize someone from the show that I really love that you don't watch, which is annoying, because I reckon you should watch it.
I will when I've got a spare 45 hours in my life to watch it. Actually, I think it runs a lot longer than that.
Oh yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., man, like it's fun. It's just finished. Yeah, I mean, if you love Marvel, definitely watch it.
Yeah, so. You're not the first person to recommend that, but yes.
Let's dig into Overlord, because we are getting off track on this one. Do you want to talk about the story, or you want to talk about the cast first? Because
do you want to read out the cast list for us, or?
I know it's a running gag with me reading out the cast, but I'm not even going to tackle this because I struggle to read names in general, and looking at the names on here, I can't pronounce any of them. Like I'm going to butcher them.
Look, I'll give it a stab then. So, you know, your protagonist of this is Jovan Adepo, who plays Private Edward Boyce. So he's your main character, but also he's the surrogate for the audience's moral compass, I guess. And I haven't actually seen him in many things before this movie, but, you know, I did a bit of a scan of his credits, and he was in the TV series Watchmen recently. I don't know if you've seen that.
He was, I've forgotten the character's name.
Hooded Justice?
That's it.
Yeah, so he played the younger incarnation of Hooded Justice, and for the limited time that he was in there, you know, he did some really great work. So I'm very keen to see what he does later on. And I see that he's filmed for the Stand TV series. So that'll be something to check out later this year.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be a movie that we go during COVID is a good movie to watch. Because if you know the story of the Stand, it hits home right now. What's going on in the world?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm sure we're still going to watch it anyway. And it seems like we're watching a lot of isolation sort of flicks right now during this latest stage of lockdown. But, you know, on another note, this has Wyatt Russell Kurt Russell's son.
I might get a little flack when I say this. I reckon I haven't seen him in any other movie except for Overlord. I just reckon, but just watching him through this, one, more handsome than his dad. Two, seems more butch than his dad. And three, has a lot more charisma than his dad. Like, I loved every moment he was on the screen. Like, I just literally couldn't take my eyes off him. Like,
he was pretty. There was something pretty magnetic to him.
Yeah,
just everything that he did in this movie, and it was. And I've probably thrown this term around a bit, like during other movies that we've talked about, but he does subtle really well in this. But he's also got like this, this really sort of burning rage, and I found him really. Just oh man, like I was thinking, like, where has this guy been? And I think that after something like this, it wouldn't be surprising if he gets even cast as like to play a character that his dad has played in a reboot of one of his movies.
I don't know if you got this feeling, but did you feel like he was channeling his like sort of, because obviously Snake Plissken speaks with a like a whisper. But he had like a snake sort of persona, he was just so cool. So I don't know. He just had this presence, and I was like, he could so be Snake Plissken.
He definitely nailed the man of few words character throughout this movie, and you could get a sense that he could easily step into a role like Snake Plissken. And I was like, there's obviously the genes there in terms of like the look, but I think he could very easily play a lot of those types of roles. And he's actually going to be seen in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. He's going to be playing US agent.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, all right. I thought
if you know that character, we're going to be in for a treat. I'm really like. I just can't wait till we see a trailer, and I just want to see him gear up as a character. I just want to see that's it. After seeing this movie, perfect casting, easily.
And then rounding out the cast, you've got Mathilde Olivier as Chloe Laurent. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen her in many things, but I thought she was pretty serviceable.
I think she's only been in mainly French movies, though.
Yeah, serviceable sounds insulting. I think she acquitted herself quite well, though. Though her character could have been easily written as a damsel in distress, I think that they gave her a fair bit more to work with. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I remember when she first came on screen, I was like, oh, man, it's going to be like that. And then, she after they get to the village and everything, it was just like, okay, she's got a bit of feist. And then you just see, like, what she's like. I'm like, okay, she's going to be like... When you had that little jump scare when her auntie sort of comes on the screen, that whole like demeanor that she does is like, I automatically knew she was going to be a badass after that.
I think that the lasting image I get of her is her wielding that flamethrower towards the end.
Oh yeah,
and the director, he actually said that was somewhat like his reference or callback to Aliens, and it definitely had a very Ripley-like vibe to it. And just seeing like they opted for real flamethrowers with that. So
I thought that was more of a reference to The Thing.
It could be as well. Yeah, because, no, it just as easily.
It was a monster, and they had the flamethrower. So I didn't see Ripley. I just saw The Thing, and I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe as well. I think that with regards to the commitment to having the practical effects and using a real flamethrower, I don't think I've seen that in many of the recent films. But yeah, just seeing that in this, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty damn cool. Like I think it's pretty badass, if I may say so.
Oh yeah.
But I think they gave her quite a bit to work with, and when she leaps into action because her baby brother gets taken hostage. See that sort of that fiery mother protecting her cub type thing spring into action, and I was like, okay, yeah, she's definitely going to be holding her own, and I think she does. I think she really does. With the other casting for the US soldiers, you get John Magaro as Lyle Tibbett. He plays the sniper, and I hadn't seen him in anything else, but then I recognized that he's actually in Umbrella Academy season 1.
He was the dude that He was the one that orchestrated everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he was the one who was orchestrating... Oh, what's her name again? White Violin.
Vera? Hang on. It's Ellen Page. What was the character's name? Oh, it doesn't matter, but yeah.
So he was orchestrating that.
Vanya! Sorry, Vanya. That was the name. Sorry.
Perfect. Yep. But he came across as such an asshole in the beginning, but as you see the movie go on, and he was really nasty toward, his character was really nasty towards the little kid, Chloe's little brother, Paul.
Yeah.
But then you see that he has a real heart of gold, and then after that, I just sort of found the character endearing. So, it's like a lot of tough guy talk, but really he's a great big softie, and
he's a teddy bear.
Yeah, and he rounds out the cast. I kind of think of him as like maybe along the lines of Hudson in Aliens.
Yeah, I'd pay
just
that.
Just really mouthy and a smart ass the whole way through. But yeah, like he is a big softie. And then you get Chase. The name of the character is Chase, but that's played by the actor who plays Fitz in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ian DeCastecker.
Who has a very, very convincing American accent. Then that's what threw me off, because I'm so used to hearing his Scottish accent, and I think that's why I couldn't recognize him.
I know I've got to watch the show, but yes, look, I think he has maybe the best scene in this movie, and we'll get to that in a bit. Do you think you know where I'm headed when I say the best scene in this?
Oh, I got a lot to say about this scene. Because
when you say that though, like when I hear what you say, I'm just like, yeah, you didn't actually have that much to say.
No, because I couldn't stop laughing in that scene. I'll tell you in a sec. Just finish off the cast and we'll get into it.
Rosenfeld is Dominic Applewhite. I've not seen him before, but if they were to do a sequel, I would like to see something focusing on him. I'll give reasons for that. And then you have the main villain of the piece, and his name, I apologize if I butcher this, but his name is Pillow Asbeck. He plays Captain Waffner, and he's a real son of a bitch.
A real ugly son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's just he is evil through and through in this, and I think that he really nails that. He's despicable. You just loathe him, and you want to see him get his comeuppance.
Oh yeah, that scene when he's about to do something to what was it?
To Chloe's character, to the character Chloe. Yep.
Oh, just if you looked at his eyes, like that. That was creepy as hell. Yeah,
he does have a very predatory look to him in that scene, and he just does so much. Like, I don't know, it's just like this combination of everything, like from the slicked back hair to the fact that he's a Nazi, but also like his delivery. It's just so chilling. He doesn't have to say, "I'm going to kill your little brother," but he makes the threat so real and convincing that you actually do feel that he is a legitimate villain.
Oh yeah.
And this is something that the movie does. The movie is about the horror of war. I find that, it started out as a, World War II men on a mission film, at least for the first third. So you've got a very conventional sort of setup. The Allies are now, D-Day is approaching. The Allies are making their way to northern France. The unit that's on this plane where the principal characters are on, they're briefed on their mission. They have to go to this village, and then they have to take out this radio tower. So it's a very conventional setup. If you go into this movie, you will think that you're just watching a World War II film.
Especially that opening 5 minutes on the plane.
Jesus, yeah. That's visceral. That was rough.
I don't know if you have family that served or met any veterans and hear their stories. I've heard quite a few, and this is probably some of the closest interactions of some of the stories that I've heard. I'm not going to name names, but there was a story that was told to me, and the scene, when they get shot up, and they just and they're still on the plane, they get shot up, and the guy got shot right next to him. I've heard of stories of like that, and just seeing it on screen, I had a little bit of tears in my eyes because I can't even imagine if I was in that situation. I'd be terrified. I would never want to go through that. And I feel sorry for people that have to do this.
And it's a terrifying scene.
Yeah.
So everyone just gets chopped to shreds, save for a few. And the ones that do make it off the plane, well, they still have to parachute through, 1, other planes flying around them, 2, they have to navigate through anti-air artillery fire, and 3, they have to try and land it. And yeah, well, as you see with Boyce's character, he makes it through, but then he just barely pulls the cord for his parachute in time before he makes it into the water, and then he's about to drown. So he has to hurriedly make his way back up for air, and then he cuts his way through his parachute, which is draped over the water. That was incredible, though, that sequence. It really recalled to my mind, in terms of how visceral it was. It called to my mind the landing scene in Saving Private Ryan at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, this was obvious.
Very tense.
Yeah, very. And this was obviously shot from an airplane, from the point of view of, these soldiers sitting in an airplane, and, it's not ground fighting, but this was full on. And I had to watch it back, but it is a single take. So from when
You're kidding.
Well, from when Boyce gets, so part of the plane is already, split.
Yeah.
People are falling. Boyce gets picked up, and from that moment on, I think, is when the sort of single take commences.
Oh, okay.
He gets thrown out of planes.
I thought you were talking about the whole sequence, but yeah, I think
no,
right.
just one moment, and then there's another single take sequence at just before the very end.
Okay.
And yeah, it was just really stunning to look at because it's, I guess, it gives you that sense that you probably wouldn't want to blink during a moment like this.
I don't think they've ever done I could be wrong, but I don't think they've ever done a scene that's from the point of view from the plane like that. I mean, I know. You do see war movies where they drop out, but not being attacked like that. You know what I mean? And that, just that scene alone nearly turned me off. I was gonna, automatically say I don't want to watch this because I can't really watch war films. It's like if horror movies are one way of freaking me out, war movies are just as bad, if not worse for me. Like because it's real. Like. That this can actually happen. So I think that's what scares me the most. But once I pulled through that, yeah, it just goes into a whole different ball game. Like, oh, when they make it onto the ground, it doesn't really stop there because once the group, what remains of the group gets together, they even sustain more losses. You see that they're. He's the sort of commanding officer, Buckingham Woodbine. Yeah, I haven't seen him in many things in quite a while. The only thing I can remember him is Spider-Man, and before that was some...
Do you remember The Big Hit? Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was in that.
With Marky Mark and Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah, see, that's his most memorable movie to me, but, he plays a character called Crunch who's a chronic masturbator. But, when I saw him, I was like, okay, he's someone that I recognize in this. And then, they kill him off. He has, some really cool lines. I mean, when, before they all have to exit the plane, he's like, didn't I tell you ladies I'd show you a good time? I just just get them all motivated. But
I just like the way when he dies, he goes, "Oh, don't you guys have a smoke?" And he's just sitting there, and he just has a giggle, and then he gets shot up. I'm just like, oh, what a way to go out! What a way to go out!
Yeah, and this whole setup, with this very limited number of men who are remaining for this mission. It just reminds me so much of Aliens. The entire company is reduced to just a few soldiers within seconds or minutes. They got limited supplies. There's no backup. There's an overwhelming force ahead of them. Yet they still have a mission to complete.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it has that real men on a mission setup. And I was on board for it because after Inglourious Bastards, where it was sort of promised that you would get a men on a mission film, what you ended up getting with that was very different.
Now that's a movie that's batshit crazy.
I wouldn't say that.
What you'd say that? Overlord is more batshit crazy than Inglourious Basterds, when Inglourious Basterds actually show people getting their heads scraped. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, like, it's a Tarantino picture, so I kind of expect that, but I don't think that that's batshit crazy. I think that's more the norm now for him. So,
I sometimes wonder why I'm friends with you.
Yeah, don't worry. I questioned that myself. But, you know, with this, what I also get a sense of is that, you know, not only does this movie, you know, at least in the very early goings, depict the horrors of war, but you also get a sense that, you know, like, death is around any corner. So, you know, like, when they're all reunited, you know, like, they're going through a minefield, and the character that's talking about, like, you know, writing their book, they step on a mine, and then they're blown up straight away.
I didn't know he stepped on a mine. I thought he was shot, but okay. Yeah, it explains why he went poof.
They were in a minefield, dude.
Mm. I don't know, because I didn't see the mine. It's not like when we talked about Ready or Not, not Ready or Not, The Hunt, you know, where you actually see it. So I was like, oh, okay.
I'm thinking, did he actually watch this movie, or is he lying to me? He watched it twice?
I did. I just didn't notice that bit, okay?
Yeah, so after you get that minefield segment, though, you know, things sort of progress quite steadily, and, you know, the time is a factor, as Wyatt Russell's character Ford points out. So they've only got a few hours until, you know, the main force are meant to arrive, and they really need to take out this radio tower. Mm. They get into the town, they meet the character of Chloe, and it is sort of then that the teases that this isn't a regular World War II film start happening. When Boyce sees Chloe's aunt, you know, through the crack of the door briefly, did you get a bit freaked out with that makeup there?
Nah, I think it's just because, like, the only reason why it was jump scare for me is just because, like, it was like I was expecting that, but then once I looked at it, like, looked at it for a second, I was like, oh, that's not scary, but it's kind of freaky. Mm. But one thing I am a bit pissed off about this movie, they didn't really go into detail about that about the aunt, and that's because, like, later on in the movie, you find out that the Nazis are doing experiments on the townspeople, and she is mentioned briefly that she is one of the experiments, but
how did you draw? Yeah, like, how do you draw that connection?
Yeah, and I was a bit disappointed because I'm just like thinking, because she was making those really loud breathing sounds,
yeah,
and it was just like, it's a part of the story where I'm like, what happened? Like, what's going on with this, her, you know? And why is she up there? And why won't Chloe let them meet her or anything? You know what I mean? And yeah, that there's a lot of missed opportunity.
I have to admit, it was, perfect way to describe it. You know, it is a missed opportunity. You know, you sort of see that, you know, throughout the night, the soldiers are rounding up people from their homes and then just taking them. And then they bring them over to the church, and some come back and some don't. Mm. You also see examples of some of these people who have been experimented on. They're brought out, and Boyce witnesses it. They torch them. With regards to the auntie, I was kind of, I have to say, I was like, okay, so, you know, she's in that state. Why would they return her? She would seem like a bit of a failed experiment for them, and, you know, from that logic, you would think that after Boyce saw people get torched, that they should have torched her rather than return her. So I was like, I don't know what it was with that.
But here's the thing: she didn't live, or was she alive at the end? Because
no, they were meant to send soldiers to her house to take care of her.
Oh, right. That's why I got a little bit lost
in the chaos. I guess you don't really know what happens to her, but you could sort of assume that she was killed off. Whereas, yeah, the other soldier was chasing after Chloe. And this is already, like, you know, we're jumping back and forth between acts, but yeah, there was another soldier chasing Chloe, and it turned out that she was actually just running a diversion so that they could mount their attack on the church base. Mm. Yeah, but the first after seeing that, though, you know, you get more of a sense that this is more a horror film, once Boyce manages to sneak into this base, it's a lab of horrors. And it calls to mind a lot of things about what happened in World War II. You know, you've got Nazi experimentation that went on, but then this one, it's given more of a horror film twist. You see, you know, when he looks inside that cell, you see this grotesque looking mutated eye. And then you see that body that's stuck in a bag filled with liquid. I was like questioning, why are they in the liquid?
That's another thing I didn't, what were they doing with them?
Yeah, see, like, you kind of ask, okay, so the Nazis have holed up in this town. They see this mysterious black liquid underneath the church where they've set up their base of operations in their radio tower. They've somehow got a scientist that decided, hey, let's start injecting ourselves with this black tar substance. Let's see if it'll create a super soldier. But in that sense, I just kind of find, yeah, all right, well, you're just gonna have to suspend disbelief.
you know, when you say it like that, now I'm just like picturing like Captain America coming in and going, yeah.
Well, is this a spiritual prequel to Captain America? Well, if that were the case, Captain America was already fighting, but you know, like, let's not get into the
Where's the Red Skull?
The nerdery behind that. But this guy who plays Captain Waffner, I reckon he could be a Red Skull.
Oh, he would so be a good Red Skull too.
Yeah, absolutely despicable. But what about that effect they had though when Boyce sees he hears a voice calling out for help, and then he pulls back a curtain, and it's a woman's head with her spine.
Oh, okay, yep, no.
And the rest of her body's missing. My God, that was just freaky. Yeah, like at that point, you know, being a horror film fan, I was like, yep, totally on board with this.
That's when I knew
awesome.
That's exactly when I knew it was a horror movie. I was like, okay, yep. Oh. And then she looks at him and, oh. Yeah.
You know, I actually had to read up about that. So the way that it was set up, the director had said that so the substance that was found, they actually just pump it into those bags and then have these people, I don't know if they're injected with it, but then they're staying inside that bag with that substance. And then the secretions that come out of that, like when it's somehow passed through the body or whatever and it's refined.
Is that the orange stuff that...
Yeah, that's the serum that's in the syringes.
Yeah.
Incredibly disgusting looking, you know. It looked like it would be something that you would find in a Del Toro movie. You know, it just felt like, you know, it was something, you know, that sort of goop that he loves that you see in, like, say, Blade 2 or Hellboy.
Oh, man.
Probably a lot of KY jelly.
Man, I knew I shouldn't have eaten dinner before we cast tonight. Oh, I feel like I've got to chuck it up now thinking of it. Ugh.
Yeah, but after he makes his way through there, you know, you know, the scene progresses. You get, again, like this movie definitely blends the real horrors of war with the horrors of this horror film. You know, in the sense that, and this is the great subtle character work on maybe on the writer's part, but definitely also on the delivery of Wyatt Russell as the corporal. So Boyce he ends up rescuing one of his buddies, Rosenfeld. They make their way back to Chloe's house. He's blabbering about everything that he'd seen, and he shows them the syringe that he stole from the lab. Now at that point, Ford decides that he's going to start interrogating Captain Waffner. See, so that part, you know, he says, he has a line that really just stood out to me. He goes, "You want to beat them, you play just as dirty as they do." And then he just starts laying into Captain Waffner.
Oh man, that's a tough scene to watch too.
It is, man. It really is. You know, these are just these really brutal, primitive interrogation techniques. But
they had the brass knuckles with the knife, and I thought he was going to stab him, and I was like,
"Oh yeah,
wow."
But you know, you get the sense that Ford himself has seen a lot of stuff because he transferred into this company.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
He's already had a lot of combat experience, so he's seen a lot of stuff that these guys haven't. And yeah, you know, the way that the movie can interpret or add that to this, it sort of just adds to that sense that this is it's not lampooning a World War II film. You know, they're actually trying to, you know, depict this stuff And I think they succeed
Oh yeah,
quite a lot of the time.
like you forget that this is a horror movie half the time when you got scenes like that, and I think that's what makes this movie really different to anything that we've seen before, because the moment you see the horror, you know it's horror, but then all of a sudden it switches back to a war movie, and it'll be a short time, maybe 3 or 4 minutes before something else brings it back to horror, but you completely forget that this is meant to be a horror movie.
Yeah, well, I think that they nailed the look of a war film really well. And, even though the action in it is, well, like reserved for the beginning and more towards the end, it moves along at such a steady pace that, you could very easily think of this as being, like very much in the vein of a war film, but it's just spiced up with all these horror elements.
Oh, let's the best scene of this movie blends both of them into one.
I've got this as a heading: body horror. You can lay out this scene for us then.
Okay. So Wolfner pretends that he's dead or asleep or something, and as Chase is taking him down, because what were they doing? Were they just going to move him and use him as a hostage situation?
Yeah, so they needed him so that they could make this is probably one of their plans, that they wanted to use him as a hostage as they made their way to the base, to the church, to blow it up.
And all of a sudden, Wolfner is, trying to break free, and everyone tries to come up and try to help, and then, he shoots Chase in the chest 3 times, I think. And they finally get Wolfner on the ground, and, he's screwed. And Chase is just sitting there, and normally if you get shot, you're like, oh my God. And he's like, I'm going to be okay, right? Yeah, I'm going to be all right. I literally could not stop laughing at that, because he had a happy face too. He's like, I'm going to be okay. Yeah, this is going to be fine. Yeah.
Well, they're probably depicting the shock, because oftentimes people go into shock.
I don't know, but it just I couldn't stop laughing at his facial expressions. Like, how could you be that happy when you've been shot? And the good thing about this scene that I liked is that the bullet holes were bleeding profusely, and it really felt very 80s, especially with the torso, the way it looked. So the makeup people and I don't know, but the visual effects people did a really good job there. And eventually, Chase just is about to die. And I want you to take over on this one, because
well he does die,
man.
Well, he does, yeah.
Was he actually dead? I thought he was he was about to die, and then he was just took his last breath before they injected him.
No, he died, and then I'm pretty sure that's what Ford says. But then, yeah, Boyce decides to inject him with the syringe full of the serum.
So this is when I thought he was going to turn to a zombie. So at this point, I'm already thinking it's still going to be a zombie movie, and automatically, because you texted me probably 20 minutes before this scene happened when I was watching it, and you asked me, "Hey, have you ever watched Dead Snow?" I'm like, "No," and then you go, "Oh, you're going to be in for a treat when you watch this one." I'm like, and I knew about Dead Snow, so I was like, okay. And the moment I see that, I'm like, okay, he's going to turn into a zombie, and then all of a sudden, his veins start building up. He starts getting twitches. He hits his head on the balancing beam, and it breaks. And then next thing you know, he's got super strength.
What about when he snaps his head back?
Have you ever seen All-Star Superman, the DC animated movie?
No, dude.
Oh well, there's a scene where one of these clones does something very similar, where his body gets transformed, and that was a big callback for me. I'm just like, wow, I'm creeped out, man. Especially when he turns his head, I'm like, oh gosh, because is it his bones, or is that just something that's going to come out?
I don't know what it was. Something protrudes, and it's maybe part of the rib cage had shot up as he'd snapped his neck back, and when you see it, it's grotesque. it's absolutely grotesque is what it is, because then when his head moves back to a normal position, like, all the bones, like his collar, it's all out of place and out of whack. And, like, just when you see that, and it, you really get a sense for how, for lack of a better word, how horrific this would be. Because, he's even screaming because as the serum is making its way through him, and, it just gives the scene an intensity that I think was done very well. And it ends with something just, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Much like a zombie, he can't be taken down by regular gunshots.
Yeah. Guys, just take our word, just watch it and you'll understand why that whole scene is memorable. If you have watched it, you'll understand why we're like, oh, like that. But that's something that's gonna stay in the back of your memory for at least a week. And it's been on my mind all day since I watched it again. And
you also have a weaker constitution than most.
Yes, that's true.
They have some really cool lines in this, and when the serum has gone in, and he's resuscitated, the Captain Waffner character, he says, "You asked what the serum was, Corporal," and then later on he says, "A 1,000-year Reich needs 1,000-year soldiers." Yeah. Just hearing that, I was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome." There's a lot of blending of Nazism with the occult. So you see that in Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're after the Ark of the Covenant, as well as in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Hellboy is another example. Yeah. Yes. So this kind of speaks to that in terms of Hollywood history. That you've got the Nazis as the villains, but then here they're moving into supervillain territory because they're trying to create their 1,000-year soldiers, and that just I think it fits in with the movie so well. I think the line is very memorable on that basis.
It's very scary too. Like when he says it, and he just has that it wasn't really a smile, but it's more of a smirk.
Yeah. Like that guy's smirking. It's the delivery. It's just evil. He's without a doubt evil. But earlier on, before the entire scene plays out, and this is where I was like, yeah, Wyatt Russell, you are dead ringer for Kurt Russell. Like, just, I don't know if you're trying to channel your dad with some of your delivery, but there was a bit where he says to Chloe, he goes, "You got a vehicle we can use. You're not going to get it back." It's just like, that could be Snake Plissken as well. Again, I'm like, this guy's amazing.
I'd say that's more,
Jack Burton.
Yeah, Jack. I'd say it's more Jack. That would be more of a Jack line, but yeah. I can't wait to see this guy in more movies. I really hope he does more stuff like that. He's fantastic.
Yeah, well, obviously we're already on board to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, so yeah, we'll get to see a bit more of him there.
You still need to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sorry, what was that?
Nothing. But my next favorite bit is, oh man, I couldn't stop laughing, and I'm going to hell because I laughed at this. So Chloe distracts the Nazis to the person, and then all of a sudden they capture one guy who's on a motorbike, and they fill the motorbike with all a bunch of explosives, and they put a grenade in his mouth, tape it up. They taped his hands. He rides all the way back to the Nazi camp.
All right.
Sorry, I'm going to try and control myself. And the bad guy is sitting there, and he's going, and they're like, oh, and they're just saying stuff in German, and there's no subtitles for this one, and they're basically saying, shut up, and stop, and they ended up ripping out the tape off his mouth, which is connected to the grenade, and this is why I found it very stupid at the start when I first watched it, and then I realized why I wouldn't have worked the way I thought it would. They noticed that he's got a whole bunch of explosives and they're ready to go off in the passenger seat of the motorbike, and then he's just sitting there going, and he's got this really shocked look on his face. I immediately first thought, why didn't he just spit the grenade out? And then run off, and then he would have been still burnt, but not a way as way as burnt as what he would have been. And then I realized they've actually taped his hands on the bike. So,
but how did they rig it? Okay, this is my question. How did they rig the bike to ride perfectly straight? Like, couldn't he have veered somewhere else? But like, he ended up stopping right there. I'm like, okay, if they rigged it so that he's got the hand on the accelerator.
I think some of his things aren't taped, so I think that's how he's braked it. But again, movie magic, Hollywood,
There's a scene as well and this is part of the makeup that I love. So Waffner, when he makes his escape from the house, he's actually in the exchange of gunfire, he gets shot through the face.
Oh,
and then the next time you see him, so the dude's like leveled up. He's injected himself with 2 syringes worth of serum. The next time you see his face, it's like half of it is just blown away, and you see the like large bits of the gum and teeth as being exposed.
But they were burnt as well, if you notice.
Yeah, and it
was like Two-Face in the Dark Knight, but more gruesome. And I like the fact that they showed the teeth that they were burnt. Like, okay, they've really done the science sort of in this, and that's what really got me. I'm like thinking, okay, this movie's getting cooler at every minute.
Yeah, and everything moves at a very quick pace towards the end. You get like a sense of the countdown, or like how quickly they need to move, because there's only 1 hour before the forces arrive. So yeah, they really move things quite along well. And I think there's some really great character work, because again, there's the bit with Tibbet. He sees Paul running alone in the streets, and then there's all this gunfire happening around, and he goes to save him. And I was just like, yeah, you're almost my MVP of this movie, just because you've risked your life for this young boy, and you're not such a jerk after all. And then the rest of the cast is just so likable. But when you get to like the end, you see that when Ford ends up encountering Waffner, and it's like just payback for how he was interrogating Waffner earlier, you're just like, oh, he's going to make him pay.
Yeah.
He's really going to make him pay. And I have to admit that the bit where Waffner places him on a meat hook and then just raises him up.
Oh.
No, I don't normally wince in movies like this, but like that actually made me wince. I don't know why. Like I was just like, oh, this is hideous.
Have you ever watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Like there was a scene very similar to that, and that gave me nightmares. That this one is certainly going to give me some just, and because this is from the front in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was from the back.
Yeah.
Like But that whole scene it's brutal. Like everything about it, like voice just comes back out of nowhere, and he started to help, and oh man, the scene was really good because it did show the war bit and it did show the horror bit, and this is the first time they really combined them both into the one scene, and it worked, absolutely worked.
I think what was also really awesome was that they kept. So there's this serum, imperfect as it is, but they kept it quite grounded, and by that I mean, so you've got like elements of regeneration, or being able to sustain larger amounts of damage, super strength, but it doesn't go into anything ludicrous. Like they don't start sprouting extra limbs, they don't have tentacles or anything like that, they don't grow like blades for hands. So it kind of, it gives it more of a realism, a very gritty realism, as much as you could ask for in terms of a movie that's going to have these horror elements to it, where the serum basically turns people into mindless zombies, or, well, in Waffner's case, it just amplified. His evilness. But I really did appreciate the fact that it kept it a bit more grounded. And it doesn't sort of veer too far off into supernatural territory so as to lose people.
Well, when Ford injected himself, nothing really happened except he just became a little bit immortal, and that was about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like so he's now leveled the playing field, so he's able to lay into Waffner. But yeah, there's nothing else that's really changed too much. But yeah, like just on his character, what a awesome hero's death he has. Like I really liked how he, like he sacrifices himself, but also because he knows that this serum's going to overtake him. But yeah, like, he pushes Boyce out, shuts the gate, and then just says, the tower, Private Boyce. And I was like, oh man, you're awesome. He gets the hero's death, but he also, he
gets the good. He has the great one-liners too.
Oh yeah, he has he fits with the character. He puts the mission first, and even though he's going to sacrifice himself, he ends up completing the mission like he set out to do. So yeah, I was very, very happy with how they wrote his character out, even though he was
probably the best character,
arguably the best part. Yeah, arguably the best. Even though he has very little to say, he was arguably the best.
And then the ending, obviously they blow up the tower. Oh, sorry, the radio station, and it just ends with.
That was a single take as well.
Yes, it was. That
Yes.
I do know. That I do remember.
Yeah.
This is the only thing I had. As Boyce comes back, and he doesn't say anything. He just gives everyone a sort of nod, and he just sits down. The only problem I had with it is that the music there was lack of music in that scene, and I would have thought if they had triumphant music, proper triumphant music around it, it would have made that scene a little bit more memorable. But it just, because he was too tired to say anything. He was happy what he'd done, but he just, all he wanted to do was just sit down and just relax. And I just didn't get that sort of tension in that scene, but just simply because there was just no.
Well, no, I think you've nailed it though. I think what you've said is what they intended to communicate. I think they intended to communicate that it was a combination of things, like the exhaustion, along with that there was just an amount of shock that just rendered him silent towards the end. He really just had to take a seat because what happened before that was basically a roller coaster ride. So yeah, everything that had been so overwhelming that they'd had to deal with, they find this is now the cathartic release as it is. But yeah, in the wrap up, you get to see pretty awesome Aussie actor, I should say. Name is Patrick Bramall. If you've never seen it, you really should check out on Stan the TV show No Activity. That is a fantastic, fantastic Aussie comedy show. But yeah, he plays the CO that Boyce has to report to, and he's briefing him on what happened. But they make the decision to fold Boyce and the rest of the group into Charlie Company. And he wants to know if there was something down there, like a Kraut lab. And Boyce decides to cover it up. I think that scene, as well as the last lines of the film, they leave enough to tease that there could be a sequel. Because when Boyce returns to the guys, he goes, yeah, got a job to finish. We've got to get Tibbet to Hitler. And then Tibbet's and then pop. And then, he says, we all go home. So with that, I was like, okay, that would be a sequel I would be on board for. If then, it moves into these guys and their adventures in Charlie Company. And yeah, they eventually get onto a mission to take out Hitler.
What would be funny, I only just thought of it now, if they still had serums, but then you played Batman Arkham, I think it was Arkham City, where the Joker has a serum, he just turns into this mecha giant monster thing. If they did that with Hitler in a sequel, I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah, get the real Wolfenstein element. Well, some critics had actually said that there is a very Wolfenstein vibe to this, and I was like, I could pay that. Yeah, I could definitely sort of see that. And yeah, there's potential for it to get really batshit crazy if they get Hitler just leveling up with the serum.
Well, let's hope they make a sequel, because I'd pay to see that.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Oh, look, man. I mean, I was reading this article from Thrillist. I've never even heard of this site, but the director said that he wanted the movie to give you 90% of everything you want, but then leave you wanting that last 10%. And he himself is curious. Yeah, and there's just all these storytelling threads that they've left open, which would make for a really awesome sequel to pair with this movie. And, you know, he said himself he's curious to see what an Overlord version of the Battle of the Bulge might look like. And he said, but that could probably just remain in the audience's mind and not the filmmakers. But, hey man, like these guys, so the way this movie works, it's a men on a mission film. These are the unsung heroes who helped operate, you know, the D-Day operations be carried out successfully because of their work in taking out this radio tower. If they were to have continuing adventures, to see them, you know, do these sorts of things behind the scenes, and then eventually get Tibbet to taking out Hitler, that would be something I would be on board for. Please, I hope they put this, like, you know, they decide to fund this on Netflix and then do like a limited series of like 3 or 4 hour-long episodes or hour-and-a-half-long episodes, just so that I could see more of this world and the way that they did it.
Well, let's have the consensus. Is it cool?
Absolutely, man.
Yep,
absolutely.
That's a cool. I don't normally like war movies, but this is definitely cool, and you guys should definitely check it out for sure.
Yeah, this is a really fun alternate history storyline. You know, combining both World War II action and horror, and it's skillful. And a point that I made earlier, it really, really skillfully blends the real horror. So things like, you know, the warfare, death being around any corner, having to twist your own morals, losing family, Nazi experimentation, you know, just really abhorrent things, with the somewhat supernatural horror, which is that, you know, they wanted to create these 1,000-year soldiers. And a lot of the effects were achieved practically, and it's just a real fun movie to watch. There isn't a dull moment in it, I don't think.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Castbox, and of course iTunes. And while you're there, leave us a like and review. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and enable those notifications. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at What If It's Cool Podcast, tweet us at What If It's Cool, and find us on Instagram at What If It's Cool Podcast. Keep that support going. And until next time, folks, we'll catch you on the next cast. Peace.